When the Ebola outbreak hit West Africa, fever spiked and so did the rate of abandoned children due to fear of them transmitting the virus to extended families. Most children and teenagers become victims of the Ebola epidemic and they were unaccounted for. It is only now that we are learning that Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone saw a surge in teenage pregnancy, likely caused by an increase in the incidence of rape or prostitution during the Ebola epidemic. In Sierra Leone alone, teenage pregnancy rate increased by 65%, according to a study by the United Nations Development Programme. Sierra Leone have suffered greatly among the three countries that have the Ebola virus in the last 2 years. And we all know Ebola is transmitted by touching somebody who have the Ebola. How do you educate the sex workers to be aware of Ebola transmission?
Actually, many organizations have been around the areas where they know they hang about. 50-50 group and other women organizations have been out there giving condoms, educating them.
I asked one of the sex workers to tell me what method she uses to protect herself from contracting the Ebola virus. This is what she said.
If you get the sick, they get her.
So, with you on trace, you know, if you say more dangerous?
Dangerous.
So, what you can do about that?
The person don't know my guide and protect you. Because not to me sabi, not to the condom we use for say go make I not get sick, I know it's safe. Now God no more than the guide and protect my streets.
You know, say the Ebola, it don't kill Boku people, then, right?
Yeah.
During my interview with Honorable Kowa, I asked her who does she think people have to blame for sex workers endangering their own lives and the lives of other people. This is what she said.
I blame the people that go to them for these trades, because if there are no men going to them for this trade, they will not be in existence. They will be extinct. They will stop and find elsewhere or other trade to do. But of course, there's a demand for them, so they carry on. I have cases every day of rape of 2-year-old, an 18-year-old was raped. She was selling bananas. She died after that rape. And our problems are enormous.
Which the trade, the rate in which the trade has grown in Sierra Leone is just alarming. We have girls as young as 8 and 9 entering into the profession.
Both women I spoke to believe during the Ebola outbreak there was a decrease in the sex trade.
And I would say during the Ebola time, there were prostitutes out there, but they were lesser amount according to what people are saying in statistics compared to now. That's what I heard.
At the peak of the Ebola crisis, there was a drastic cut in the number of girls entering into the profession, or there was a decrease in the number of girls actually involved in the trade, primarily because of fear, not just from the girls, but customers as well. So the demand was very low.
Sonia Williams expresses her biggest fear and concern not only for the return of Ebola in the country, but the new trend the sex workers have started doing.
We're finding out that now the new trend amongst commercial sex workers is to actually sleep with survivors. These viruses then become deactivated. They become activated, and then they start producing and they spread. And so maybe that could account for what has happened with this new trend of affected or infected Ebola victims. And God forbid the damage it will do a second time, irrespective of how ready. Because people say, well, if we can never have that crisis because we're ready.
I finally asked Honorable Kowa whether there is a law in place to stop all sex workers from practicing their trade.
For us as lawmakers, we make the law. the police and other state office enact these laws. They make sure these laws come into effect by making sure that they, as an institution, do their own side of the work by implementing these laws.